again in just a moment. With that, I will call this quarterly meeting of the Board of Regents to order. We had a very productive morning yesterday working through our committees, and I thank everybody for handling it efficiently. Everybody was prepared, so many, many thanks. It was a good morning. I don't know if we have any special guests or media on the line, but you are certainly welcome to be with us. And just as a reminder to everyone, if you could mute your phones or computers while we conduct our business, that would be helpful. I know for the board, it's always difficult for us to remember to unmute ourselves, but it certainly does help if we are muted throughout the course of the meeting. Chancellor, before we call the roll, do you have any opening remarks at this time?
Nothing other than, again, to thank everybody for being with us this morning. I agree that I think yesterday went well with us board meeting in this format. So thanks to each of you for your participation today. I would just like to also thank Michael Boatman, Sanja, and all those at the central office who worked double time to make sure that this is a smooth process for us today. So thanks to all of you back at the central office.
No, well said. Well said. Sanja, with that, let's make it official and call the roll, please, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Governor Lee. Regent Apple.
Here.
Regent Burdine.
Here.
Regent Dollar.
Here.
Regent Duckett.
Here.
Regent Gill.
Here.
Regent Goldsmith.
Here.
Regent Green.
Here.
Regent Hatch.
Here.
Commissioner Hatcher. Regent Krause. Regent Pepper.
Here.
Regent Prescott. Vice Chair Reynolds.
Here.
Here.
Commissioner Schwinn. Regent Shockey.
Here.
Regent Varlin.
Here.
Regent Womp.
Here.
Regent White.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We have all received the minutes from our April 7 and June, our April 7 quarterly meeting, that is, and our June 2nd, the special called meeting that we held recently. Do we have any changes or corrections to those minutes? If not, we'd appreciate a motion to approve those minutes as presented, please.
Move to approve, Regent Prescott.
Thank you very much. And a second?
Second. Regent Hatch.
Thank you, Regent Hatch. Any discussion? If not, and we're going to be doing this a few times today because we are meeting telephonically, we will need to act on this with a roll call vote. So, Sanja, you're up once again.
Thank you. I'll try and move swiftly.
Thank you.
Regent Apple.
Aye.
Regent Burdine.
Aye.
Regent Dollar.
Aye.
Regent Duckett.
Aye.
Regent Gill.
Aye.
Regent Green.
Aye.
Regent Hatch.
Aye.
Regent Pepper.
Aye.
Regent Prescott.
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Shockey.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Regent Womp.
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you all very much. I will call on the Chancellor for her interim action report, please, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The interim action report was included in the materials sent to all board members prior to our meeting today. And this report constitutes a record of business transacted by the Office of the Chancellor since the previous quarterly meeting of the board. Madam Chair, pending any questions, I recommend the board's approval of the report of interim action.
Are there any questions for the Chancellor with regard to her interim action report? If not, we will need a motion to ratify and confirm the report as submitted, please.
This is Mary Lou. I make the motion.
Thank you, Regent Apple. And a second?
Second is Bruce. Oh, go ahead.
I heard Miles, I think. So,
Yes.
all right. Thank you very much. Any discussion? If not, Sandra, the floor is yours once again. Please call the roll.
Thank you. Regent Apple,
Aye.
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent Dollar,
Aye.
Regent Duckett,
Aye.
thank you. Regent Gill,
Aye.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Regent Hatch,
Aye.
Regent Pepper,
Aye.
Regent Prescott,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds,
Aye.
Regent Shockey,
Aye.
Regent Varlin,
Aye.
Regent Wamp,
Aye.
Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. I mentioned as we opened that we had a good morning yesterday with our various committee meetings. We have 4 reports this morning from those committee meetings. We will take all of these at the end in a motion to approve. So let me begin with Regent Prescott for a report from Academic Policies and Programs, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reynolds. The Academic Policies and Programs and Student Life Committee met in a public informational session yesterday to review reporting on the following items. First, the proposed program terminations, modifications, new technical program implementations for the TCATs. Secondly, the accreditation summary report and overview for 2018-2019. Madam Chair, this concludes my report of the June 18, 2020 meeting of the Committee on Academic Policies and Programs and Student Life as presented.
Excellent, thank you. And it was a very good and informative session. The same goes for External Affairs. Regent Varlin, could you share your report with us as well, please?
Yes, I can. The External Affairs Committee met in regular session to review the following items: Advancement Strategy Update, Government Relations, Legislative Update of the second session of the 111th General Assembly, and Marketing and Digital Strategy Update. Madam Chair, this concludes my report of the June 18th, 2020 meeting of the External Affairs Committee.
Very good. Thank you, ma'am. And to Chairman Apple, again, an informative session in economic and community development yesterday.
Thank you, Regent Reynolds. The Economic and Community Development Committee met in a public informational session yesterday to review reporting on the following items: update on correctional workforce training programs and the Department of Labor and ECD partnership, campus updates. Madam Chair, this is my report of the Committee on Economic and Community Development.
Very good. Thank you. June 2nd was the last meeting of the Audit Committee. We'll call on Regent Hatch for his report.
Thank you, Vice Chair Reynolds. The Audit Committee met in regular session on June the 2nd, 2020 to review and recommend approval of the following items: internal state and miscellaneous audit reports, system-wide internal audit updates, university updates, fiscal year 2020 revised audit plans, and the system-wide internal audit budget for fiscal year 2021. Madam Chair, this concludes my report for the Audit Committee meeting on June 2nd, 2020.
Thank you, sir, for another good job. Those are our 4 committee reports, which, as I mentioned, we will act on in tandem. We will need a motion to approve those 4, please.
So moved.
Yolanda?
Sandra, did you get that one?
Well, there was about 3 or 4, so I've got Tom White, Yolanda Green, and Joey Hatch.
You can move mine over to a second, Sanjay.
Thank you.
There we go.
Appreciate it.
Excellent. Any further discussion? If not, once again, we will act on these 4 committee reports with a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Regent Apple,
Aye.
Regent Burdine,
Aye.
Regent Dollar,
Aye.
Regent Duckett,
Aye.
Regent Gill,
Aye.
Regent Green,
Aye.
Regent Hatch,
Aye.
Regent Pepper,
Aye.
Regent Prescott,
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds,
Aye.
Regent Shockey,
Aye.
Regent Varlin,
Aye.
Regent Wamp,
Aye.
and Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. The succinct nature of our committee reports, however, doesn't necessarily underscore what we said consistently yesterday, and that is there is a lot going on across our system. And so there was a great deal of good news reported yesterday. Obviously, this has been a challenging time, and I know everyone is anxious to hear from our Chancellor with her report, and we certainly want to encourage your questions and dialogue throughout the Chancellor's report. Chancellor Tidings, the floor is now yours, please, ma'am. Chancellor, the mute button's got you again. There we go.
Sorry about that, guys.
That's okay, it happens.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, to say to each of you, I know that you've been receiving the updates from the system office on a bi-weekly basis. And so a lot of what I'm going to share with you today, many of you have already read, but I did want to just highlight some of the key areas for you. As our colleges have prepared to return to the summer term, and many of them are in their summer term, the intent was always to continue to serve students in this new environment and to make sure that our quality of education and instruction remained very high, and also to give great credence to the health, safety, and care of our students, our faculty, and our staff. Our student support in application, advising, and registration became available via college websites, phone, and email opportunities for students. While academic instruction for summer term is varied and includes both on-ground and online classes, some of the colleges with their on-ground classes implemented a staggered scheduling method in order to allow for social distancing. And we also continue to use the recommendations developed specifically for higher education in the Tennessee Pledge put together by a group from all of the universities, the LGIs, and our system, which we did reveal to you and was attached to one of our updates. We will continue to see cases rise on individual campuses, and when that happens, we are taking immediate action to make sure that the colleges inform students and staff that have been exposed and that the exposed areas are immediately deep cleaned and that quarantine for 14 days takes effect. Each college has prepared their fall semester plans and have submitted those to the central office, in which we have a regular database to keep those on file. The primary approach of our colleges is going to be largely online or hybrid format classes, with on-ground classes available where no other option is feasible. Each plan provides for an immediate path to be fully online should we see a resurgence in the pandemic. Labs are being front-loaded where feasible, and all colleges are incorporating their social distancing and class size considerations into each class. The various student service functions across the colleges were largely successful in shifting to a virtual environment last spring and are prepared to do so again this fall. They're utilizing technology. Offices were able to function often without any disruption in service, and a few colleges have embedded tutors and librarians into their online course shells so that students have easy access to these resources from a remote distance. A proactive approach to advising, counseling, and other services, which many colleges practice now, is even more crucial to our students and the continued support to help them be successful. All colleges remain consistent with CDC and TBR guidance and are requiring daily health screening for faculty, staff, and students before they're allowed to come onto campus. Most of them using technology and have developed apps for these types of procedures. All colleges have ramped up cleaning efforts and have increased stocks of personal protective equipment. All colleges have robust communication plans to keep faculty, staff, and students up to date, including the widespread use of email, texting, social media, and college websites. The TBR website has consolidated all resources for COVID-19 updates at each college so you could go to the system office website to receive all this information. It can't be said enough how proud I am of our college presidents, our college staff, and the faculty, and our central office staff for coming together in a time of great crisis with one goal in mind, and that was to minimize our students' disruption of courses, to support and ensure that they have the necessary tools to complete their studies, and in the face of great uncertainty and change, to always remember that student success is our job one. A TBR online task force has been established, led by Dr. Hamilton and Dr. Poirier. We started this in April, and the main purpose of the task force is to identify best practices and challenges from the spring 2020 epidemic. To strengthen distance learning opportunities within curricula, shifting some curricula from on-ground to hybrid, and to recommend resources to support faculty and to provide additional training opportunities. Members of the task force include the community college and technical college faculty, presidents, and TBR staff. And as many of you have heard me say several times, I consider us our own personal petri dish at the moment. All of the great things that we put in place, now's the time to analyze them, to look at what's working, to look at what we need to be doing better, and how do we put these practices in place permanently if we're showing an increase in student activity. I also would like to give you an update on the CARES Act. As you know, Congress has had a multi-phase response to stimulus money to address the coronavirus. Phase 1 and 2 looked at support for the vaccine development, paid leave, unemployment, and food assistance. Phase 3 included a $2 trillion stimulus dollar package that provided $14 billion for higher education and became law on March 27. To assist institutions in the processing of CARES Act emergency student grants, the system office prepared guidance and process documentation for business officers and financial aid directors to follow. Our approach was based on the guidance distributed by the U.S. Department of Education, and that guidance was distributed not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5 different times. So to say that Jonathan Button has earned his salary over the last 3 months is an understatement. He has changed scripts every time the U.S. Department of Education has changed that guidance. And we've had to go out and implement that across all 40 colleges. So the day that students began to receive the money, we all cheered and clapped loudly because we were beginning to believe we were never going to actually be able to put the money in the hands of the students that it was designed for. And Jonathan, if you are on the line, I'd like you to just say a word because we owe you a huge debt of gratitude for the work that you've done. I'm not sure he's on the line this morning. If not, please join me in thanking Jonathan whenever you see him. The TBR funding methodology allocated 90% of funds to full and part-time students who were enrolled as of March 13, 2020, and whose on-ground courses were moved online as a result of COVID-19. Students were categorized according to Pell and non-Pell eligibility status, with Pell eligible students receiving a 5% increase to their overall calculated payments. As of Friday, June 12th, all of our institutions have been able to distribute. They've completed the process with a total amount of $29.5 million being awarded for students across our system. After the initial 90% was paid to eligible students, 10% was held aside for emergency grants for students who met certain eligibility requirements outlined again by the U.S. Department of Ed. Students make requests for the emergency grant based on hardships they are facing that affect their continued enrollment. Of the 10% held aside, 4 campuses have already dispersed all of their available funds. So if this doesn't help show you the demand and the need that our students had, that was clearly evident that we had a lot of people that were in really dire straits once this hit. There is also a proposed 4th phase of economic stimulus funds, which is called the HEROES Act. And Senator Alexander has been most supportive of working with us and talking to us about this particular pot of money, understanding that our desire is that the majority of it go for workforce training. As you know, that is our mission, and our goal in life is to make sure that people have a degree, but it is a degree that will allow them to be successful in the workforce. And so he's been very receptive to that and has heard our pleas to try and help direct the dollars in that vein. I'm also very pleased to say this morning that while all of the other things have been happening in the lives of our system, we've also continued to be very successful in our grant work. Virginia's Motivate Lab, the Office of Student Success, in partnership with the university's Motivate Lab, have received a National Science Foundation proposal that was accepted for funding. This grant will continue our 4-year partnership with the UVA Motivate Lab to look at mindset interventions in co-requisite math courses. Using the results from early research that's been done at Chattanooga State, Nashville, and Southwest, the 3-year research project will provide funding for a math faculty member to work at the system office to coordinate our efforts with math faculty at all of our institutions to use mindset strategies that have been shown to increase student persistence and success in math courses. Dr. Lemming will serve as the co-PI for this research, and as you can imagine, was very significant in getting that grant written. So thank you and kudos to Dr. Lemming for her work on that. We also recently received word that our grant application to Strong Start to Finish, which is led by the Education Commission of the States, was approved. This grant is for $300,000, and it is the latest grant and around to support our data science efforts, and we will continue to work on that with these dollars. I'm also pleased to announce that the community colleges of the Appalachia issued 3 awards. They do this every year. They only give out 3, and Tennessee community colleges won 2 of them. Cleveland State won the Community Colleges of the Appalachians 2020 Instructional Program Award for its Forestry, Wildlife, and Fisheries program, while Motlow State won the 2020 Workforce Development Award for its Advanced Robotics Training Center. So congratulations to both Dr. Seymour and Dr. Torrance for their fine work in submitting those 2 programs for winners. Dyersburg State and Nashville State were among 67 colleges across the nation that were approved last month for participation in the Second Chance Pell Program. This grant allows incarcerated individuals to receive federal funding to enroll in post-secondary programs offered by the local colleges. Again, we're very pleased to know that we have become part of that program with these 2 colleges. And 2 of the 50 students named as recipients of the Jack Kent Cook Foundation's prestigious undergraduate transfer scholarship for 2020, which provides up to $40,000 a year to complete their bachelor's degree, attended TBR colleges. Those 2 individuals are Samantha Benavides at Cleveland State Community College and Gary Satin at Chattanooga State Community College. So we're very proud of both of them. We know that they're going to go on and do great things and represent TBR in a very positive light. 9 of Tennessee's colleges of applied technology this past few months were designated as Skills USA Chapters of Excellence. The 5 Gold Award Chapters of Excellence winners are the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology at Pulaski, Harris, Chattanooga, Memphis, and Knoxville. The 4 Silver Award Chapters of Excellence are TCAT's Hohenwald, Dixon, Harriman, and Hartsville. In addition, Rob Alford of TCAT Pulaski is the Tennessee Skills USA Postsecondary Advisor of the Year. Mr. Alford is Special Industry Training and Evening Program Coordinator at TCAT Pulaski, where he has also served as lead advisor for the top-ranked Skills USA chapter for 2 years. As Tennessee's top 5 chapters of excellence, the gold winners will now be considered for the prestigious National Skills USA Models of Excellence designation, which we should find out sometime in June. And on June 10th, our community college presidents, our TCAT presidents, and members of Central South staff participated in a discussion led by Derek Young called Our Lighthouse Leadership in the Current Storm of Social and Environmental Upheaval. We had some very meaningful and important discussions about how the presidents can lead their teams and understand some of the obstacles and concerns that our students, our faculty, our staffs, and our colleges are facing in this environment of today. In the coming weeks, we hope to have a similar session with Mr. Young and board members, and also a follow-up session is being planned for all presidents. And I'll keep you informed as we continue to develop those plans. And board members, at this time, I'd also like to tell you that Dr. Warren Locks has recently notified me of his intent to retire. Dr. Locks has served as president of our TCAT McMinnville for the past 10 years, and he came to our system from Argosy University in Tampa, Florida. Dr. Locks' last day will be June 30th, and we want to wish him a very happy retirement and know that he looks forward to spending much more time with his family, enjoying the leisure activities that he so richly deserves. So if each of you would please congratulate Dr. Locks on the past 10 years and the job that he's done for us at McMinnville. We're very pleased for you, Dr. Locks, and wish you well. I also want to let the board know that I have appointed Mr. Nathan Garrett, who is currently the vice president at TCAT Murfreesboro, to serve as TCAT McMinnville's interim president, which you know, in addition, he also has to continue to wear the hat to oversee our apprenticeship program. So he's learned from the best person in the world, Dr. Carol Purrier, on how to wear multiple hats. So I feel sure that he's up to the challenge. And Nathan, are you on the line? Okay, I'm not sure that he's with us today either, but if you would all please congratulate Nathan on his stepping up to the plate and taking on those extra duties for us. Madam Chair, at this time, I'd like to call on Dr. Deaton to give a report on our spring faculty survey that we sent out and on our early 2020 student enrollment and success indicators.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Tidings and Madam Vice Chair, members of the board. Good morning, and it's good to be with you today, particularly on such a historic day for our country, today being Juneteenth, marking the end of slavery. It's good to be with you today. I have 2 items, as Dr. Tidings said, that I'd like to discuss with you. And Carol, if you don't mind, maybe we can cue up the slides and start. And I will, in order to practice good virtual meeting etiquette, Vice Chair Reynolds, try to pause periodically for questions throughout both of these items as we go, and happy to engage board members in conversation as we do. Again, these 2 items, first will be an overview of a survey we conducted this spring of all TBR faculty. And next slide, please, Carol, for the intro here. And to give you a sense of what we did, we surveyed all 6,000 some odd full-time and part-time faculty across all TCATs and community colleges to get their sense of how the spring semester transpired. We wanted to ask them how they adjusted to the pandemic and the move to online courses. Wanted to get a sense from them about the students' adjustments to that shift. Also to see how the technology worked or didn't work for them and what resources they would need in the future. as we look into a fall semester that probably includes a significant proportion of online activity. To give you a sense of the responses, you can see on the right-hand side of that slide, we got over 1,500 responses from our faculty, and roughly 40% of all full-time faculty responded to the survey, with a smaller percentage of adjuncts. So again, overall, this represents about a quarter of the entire faculty workforce, again, full-time and part-time across the system that responded. Next slide, please, Carol. Just as a reminder, this was not a sporadic adjustment to online courses. Virtually every faculty member within TBR, if they weren't already, was teaching exclusively online as of mid-March, when we were shutting down our campuses to in-person activity. There were a few courses here and there that were paused, but for the most part, every faculty member within TBR encountered this experience. Next slide, please, Carol. We asked faculty first, what was their experience prior to COVID-19, prior to this change this spring? What was their experience level with teaching online courses before? And you can see the results here broken down by TCAT, community college, and by adjunct and full-time faculty. And for the most part, community college faculty felt that they had some pretty significant experience to draw from as they went into the COVID-19 experience. Less so among adjunct faculty, and even less so among TCAT faculty, which is to be expected given the very intense, skill-based, day-to-day, face-to-face modality of their instruction in our TCATs. Next slide, please, Carol. We also asked our faculty for them to give us a sense of how well their own students adjusted to the experience. And again, this is on a 0 to 10 scale. You can see at the bottom from not well at all to very well. And for the most part, most faculty had a good sense that students adjusted rather well to the transition. We also show you a couple of campuses to indicate this did not vary that much by college. Most college faculty reported that students adjusted well. Let me also draw your attention, though, to some of the pull quotes on the right, because this survey also encouraged and asked faculty some open-ended response questions where they could weigh in on these matters and on other matters, and they took us up on that offer, I could assure you. Many faculty noted that, in addition to dealing with the pandemic, we had students across campuses in many areas of the state, also dealing with tornado and storm damage throughout this past semester. And so it was a particularly trying time for many students, and that caught the attention of faculty members who I think in many ways shared an experience with students who both had empathy for each other going through the experience that we had this semester. Next slide, please, Carol. So one of the key questions we wanted to ask faculty was how they adjusted to the experience teaching online. And we first asked them just how they adjusted their courses. This was not only a dramatic change by going online, but it was a sudden change. And over the course of really a matter of a few days, again, all faculty had to make these adjustments. And you can see on the left the types of adjustments they made. And of course, they could choose lots of these. And many faculty, over half, did change assignments and just had a different assignment load for students as they went about the semester. Some adjusted the expectations of the amount of work students would do. A few dropped some readings and dropped assignments. And about 28%, that number on the bottom there, did adjust their expectations about the quality of work that students were expected to produce this semester. Again, I think faculty having a sense of empathy and understanding for what students were going through. On the right-hand side, that blue box, you also see faculty responses to how they changed their grading practices throughout the spring semester. Obviously, lots of deadlines were changed, but you also then see a portion of faculty who, for understandable reasons, we think, were a little more lenient in their grading. Again, considering both the pandemic, the online modality of teaching, and just the broader economic and social stresses that this spring produced for lots of us. Next slide, please, Carol. We then asked a broad question about student engagement and asked faculty to just give us a sense at a gut level of how engaged students were post transition compared to the earlier in the semester. And you can see that this sort of is intuitive. You have quite a few faculty indicating that students were about as engaged as they were prior, but a significant proportion, those top two bars, indicated less engagement after the transition online than there was before. Again, this is somewhat understandable. You have students who sometimes struggle with the modality, they have struggled with technology access, and as some faculty members noted, just the discipline required to succeed in an online environment is different for students, and some struggled with that. Of course, you also had many faculty indicate students were more engaged because they were able to independently work at their own pace and could be more engaged with faculty than they were previously. So answers here were a bit all over the board. Next slide, please, Carol. I want to spend just a brief time on these two. And again, Vice Chair, note that we have more slides in this deck than I'll probably go through given our time today, but I wanted to provide all these resources for the board in case they wanted to inquire. But just note on this slide that we had faculty members use all types of tools to teach online. Many of them relied on our learning management system, D2L. Many of them also used tools like we're using today, Microsoft Teams and Zoom calls. Next slide, please, Carol. We also asked faculty about communication frequency, and the only thing of note here, and you can see on the left that quite a few TCAT faculty indicated less communication with students post-transition. I think this is not a reflection on TCAT faculty as it is a reflection that any adjustment from a intense 30-hour-a-week face-to-face skill-based in-person instruction, anything that moves away from that will obviously be less communication. So it's more about the prior modality than it is anything about our faculty per se. Next slide, please, Carol. So we also asked faculty about the challenges that they faced with the transition, and we filtered this on the left and the right-hand side by faculty who indicated to us on the survey that before this spring, they had very little experience teaching online. On the right-hand side, we have segmented out those faculty who expressed that they had quite a bit of experience teaching online before this transition. So let's start on the left. For those faculty who indicated little online experience before the semester, they were really thinking more about the mechanics and technology of teaching this semester. You can see that many of them are concerned about adapting their courses in an online environment, learning to use the technology, which we all had to experience, and also making sure they can properly assess student learning. On the right-hand side, though, I'm sorry, Carol, if you could head back to that one slide. Thank you. On the right side of that slide, you see, though, among the faculty that had lots of experience teaching online prior to the semester, they were thinking much more about the balance of work and academics, or home life and academics, for both themselves and their students, because they had essentially felt comfortable with the technology and with teaching in the online environment. So you really see the differences in their experience level come through on this slide. Next slide, please, Carol. Final few on this one, we also asked about an issue that gnawed at us quite a bit early in this pandemic, which was students' technology and internet access. We see issues that continue to plague our campuses with students not having the proper access. On the right-hand side, though, you see that it's sometimes almost more of an issue of broadband access than it is devices. Of course, we had a lot of assistance from both internal campuses, philanthropic partners in solving this issue, but we have a long way to go for this fall to get our students ready to engage in an online environment. Next slide, please, Carol. And then finally, we asked faculty how they look forward to the fall semester, what they need from TBR and their own campuses as they prepare. They were asked about different resources, and you can see the various responses we got, particularly where faculty really wanted greater resources for how they can help their students succeed online, how they can be better teachers and instructors in this online environment, less so about the technology and more so about how they support students in this environment. It's of note here too, Vice Chair Reynolds and board members, that you see there in the fourth from the bottom, assistance with technology was a concern but not a top one. And I think that speaks to the efforts across all of our campuses, IT departments, our own IT department, and particularly also with our eCampus staff, all of whom dropped everything and began to immediately try to help faculty and students make that adjustment from a technological standpoint this spring semester, thus alleviating that concern for many faculty. Next slide, please, Carol. Well, that'll conclude the faculty survey presentation. Vice Chair Reynolds, let me note that the full survey results are available in a dashboard that after this meeting will go live on TBR's website. And to any presidents listening as well, we will email this out today. It allows, again, the full results to be seen, and you can then filter those results by campus to get a sense of how each individual college compared to the overall system averages. At that point, let me pause here to see if there are questions or discussion before we go into our next item. Please.
Good work as always, Dr. Deaton. Any questions or comments for Russ? I have a question of Emily Dollar first, and then I want to go to our two faculty representatives. Emily, what you've seen in this, is that consistent with your experience at Walters State or what else you were hearing from fellow students? Did anything in that presentation surprise you?
Not much of it surprised me. I do agree that there's internet access issues that are still being addressed by Walters State for some of our students that live more in the rural areas. Mm-hmm. As for teacher transition onto online classes and doing our homework assignments and stuff, I've found that some have taken it well and some have not had the proper training to know how to switch over, which it's not bad. We've all learned. It took a few weeks to kind of pick up on it. But I will say that rather than having assignments dropped for classes, there were more added on to mine. I don't know if there were similar experiences for other students, but I know that they doubled the amount of assignments for me in feeling that it would benefit the student to do extra assignments, whereas it kind of felt like self-teaching. But after the first few weeks, the professors were able to schedule Zoom meetings with students to talk with them and discuss any issues they had with the homework. So that's been my experience.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. Robert Pepper, what from your end? Anything surprise you in the presentation from Dr. Deaton?
No, I don't think so. I do think, though, that it ought to be mentioned that, especially with the TCATs, I can't speak from the community college perspective, of course, but for the TCATs, as was mentioned, it is so physically or it is such a physical process, the courses that most of us teach, that I'm finding myself that, or of course I teach machine tool and tool and die, and I'm finding that the longer this lasts, the more difficult it becomes. Typically in a program like mine, and I know there are several others, probably welding, HVAC, that would be similar. We handle most of our theoretical work early in the program, and then students do more physical and hands-on work for the remainder until graduation. So I know in my case I have many students who were past the theoretical coursework and needed only physical work before graduation, and now they're back to doing theoretical work. And of course, their question is, how does this translate to me graduating? And it's getting harder to answer that question the longer this lasts, because at some point they have to get in the labs and get hands-on work. We're addressing some of that now. I know that a lot of us have gone to the kind of half and half split group. Students are spending some time in class, sometimes outside of class. But that's just my perspective, but it is getting more and more difficult the longer that the students have to be out of the lab. We can, of course, find ways to correlate theory work and have them graduate, but at some point we degrade the quality of the students that we're putting out if we do that. There is no replacement for the physical contact work that we normally do, and at some point we've got to find a way to address that.
Well, very valuable perspective. Thank you. Regent Goldsmith?
Yes. It's very difficult for me in 2020 to hear faculty say that there's a lack of resources, there's a lack of best practices, that online was foreign to them. And for me, you got to understand my background. I started teaching online in 1995 at the University of Phoenix. So I've been doing this a long time. For us to say that faculty were caught by surprise, maybe yes in using Teams, maybe yes in using Zoom to create some synchronous, but not knowing per se how to use D2L effectively, not being prepared for that, to me is an indictment of all of us, of TBR itself, but more importantly of presidents and the faculty themselves for not, what happened to all our teaching and learning academies? What happened to all our technical assistance that I think is supposed to exist on our campuses? Chat State, we're pretty advanced, but I know we probably had half of our faculty resisted online or resisted creating shells where their materials could be there, or flipped classrooms or hybrid classrooms. I think maybe this will help us going forward, but there is no consistency from campus to campus is what I'm seeing in this information of how are they being supported. And if there's no consistency there, maybe we need to, at the TBR level, look at creating that and sending it out. I don't know, Russ, if that was sort of, maybe embedded in your presentation, that maybe we can do a better job of collating all this, because you mentioned one item of a toolkit. It's just incredible in 2020 that we could say that faculty could say, I needed more resources and more toolkits and more. So I guess I'm stunned by it, because my program, just to give you an example, we only teach online and hybrid. So every course is prepared for online. So we had a very limited need for transition because all our materials were already prepared as if we were teaching online. And granted, I'm an evening career program, so that was easy for me to prepare for 5 years ago, when I made the transition. And I don't want to sound negative about it, but I think we really have an interesting opportunity from this research to say we have to have a better message and better communication out at our level, at the system level, but also out at, our working with, I guess, our VPAAs more effectively to make sure that that there's more of a singular message on how to use D2L. What are resources and best practices? Then saying every campus is going to do it differently. It's not hard to create these things, and I know we have autonomy at we're supposed to have that at the level, but I think maybe we have to just say, when you look at the big performers historically who've done well in online, it's because they've created a methodology that everybody applies and then tweaks, but they don't ask everyone to go de novo, in their classroom and create something. And I think that's where we're lacking. And also this idea that on campuses that they're still experimenting. I got a spreadsheet the other day from Chat State showing 5 different online methodologies, delivery. And it's like, if Teams works and if Teams is free, why are we wasting a lot of resources on the local campuses evaluating Teams versus Zoom versus WebEx versus whatever? I guess maybe we have a little too much autonomy out there to be effective in this transition. And maybe we should be, I guess not that you could have prepared for a pandemic, but I think you could have prepared for the fact that in workforce development, they should be able to communicate and work online as a necessary aspect of workforce development. Maybe that's the frame. It's not just because of the pandemic. It's just because companies would want you to be able to communicate that way and be more effective. So I'm sorry if it sounded like a rant, but I do think that we need a clearer messaging and communication on, at the minimum, what best practices are and supporting our faculty that way of, how to effectively use D2L and Teams and how to effectively communicate to students. I'll give you one thing and sort of close with that. The biggest feedback I got that was a problem was adjuncts were on their own. Adjuncts would go convert your class to online, and a lot of those adjuncts had never taught online before. And we really failed that because that should have been the responsibility of a lead faculty or a department head or someone to make sure that the conversion, they had resources supporting them. And I think on a lot of campuses, That's why you saw such low numbers from adjuncts, because they were just set adrift by the people that should have been helping them. And I know that happened at my campus, and I'm assuming that happened at other campuses too. So we can do better, and we can do better over this summer to get everyone ready for the fall. And I'll close on that.
No, that's excellent. And obviously lessons learned have to be applied. And you're right. This has been a challenging time. There's always room for improvement. I think what happened in this period is nothing short of extraordinary, but we need to listen to those lessons learned. And obviously that's what Russ and the team are doing right now. So thank you for that perspective.
Okay. You're welcome. It's a great opportunity to move forward.
There you go. There you go. Any other comments or questions for Dr. Deaton? And I think you've got a second piece as well, Russ. Is that right?
I do. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And let me pivot on this first, and let me acknowledge and thank Dr. Amy Moreland for taking the lead on that survey and curating it and getting the analysis ready. And on this section coming up, let me thank Chris Tingle, Melissa Hunter, Ted Chilla, and others on the research team for getting all of this material ready as well. Next slide, please, Carol. And if we can jump right in. I want to first give you a sense of a slide that is familiar to you, where we typically will show you enrollment trends and award levels. We have a preliminary 2019-20 academic year award level that's in green at the bottom update on this chart. And we currently are sitting at around a little over 15,000 credentials that community colleges have awarded over this academic year, which is last summer, last fall, and the current spring. This is a preliminary number, and normally we don't show this to you until September because it takes a while to get ready, but thanks to our campuses and work here, we've been able to get this to you. We also have several hundred credentials that are pending that we think will be awarded this spring once students fully complete clinical and experiential components of their degrees. So this number is likely to increase, and it is likely to represent an all-time high credential award for the community colleges once the dust settles on 2020. And again, as reference on the left-hand side, this is all these increases over the last 10 years are in a declining enrollment environment that TVR has experienced, particularly as the last recession ended and adult enrollment declined. Next slide, please, Carol. And actually, we'll go into the next slide in the interest of time. TCAT Awards will be known after the summer term. Their academic year, members of the board, completes in the summer. And at that point, we'll have a better TCAT number. But just again, for historical context, they're running at about 7,000 credentials per year. So grand total across TBR, again, you have about 22,000 credentials per year across all TCATs and community colleges. Next slide, please, Carol. Now, I want to talk to you a bit about the spring 2020 student grades and grade distribution. Normally something we analyze internally, but have not talked to the board about probably in a long time. And it's a little more complex than just simply A through F grades. We also track students can get failure due to lack of attendance when they withdraw after or don't withdraw before the deadline, and thus get an F grade for that. Students can also withdraw from a course by the official withdrawal date, which we track. We also track incomplete grades, students who obviously need to extend their work in the semester in the future and thus get an incomplete. Next slide, please, Carol. To show you those distributions here, this is the spring 2020 grades compared to the last two springs 18 and 19. And let's move left to right on this one. First, on the left, you see the success rate, which we define as the A, B, or C grade, of course. Those success rates are always running at about 74%, consistent with prior years. Most courses ended in that grade. Students were successful. As you then look at the remaining distributions, the two on the right demand some attention. First is that the spring 20 grades had fewer withdrawals than we normally see. And this was a trend we saw even before COVID-19 hit. And the reasons for this are not exactly clear, but it's a good trend nonetheless. But you did, though, see on the right-hand side a spike in the incomplete grades. Now, to put this in context, all of this activity represents about 250,000 course grades for a spring semester. About 80,000 students taking on average about 3 classes. Across those 250,000 grades, we typically have just a few hundred incompletes. That is the 0.3% you see for the past 2 springs. This spring, we saw a few hundred go up to about 5,000 incompletes. So a big increase, but on a really small base. Many of these are in allied health programs and others where, again, they could not complete the clinical experience and will so over the summer. And so these are going to come down, though, as the weeks roll by. But in the main, though, we're watching these closely, and we're at times worried about what we might see in this grade distribution. But it turned out to be a good story and not a whole lot of deviation from prior semesters. Next slide, please, Carol. As you dig into this, though, you do see, though, the persistence of some troubling performance gaps, particularly by race and Pell status and gender. Black students' course success rate is about 16 points lower than their white counterparts. There's also a gap with Hispanic students. Those did not get worse over the spring 20 semester. COVID-19 didn't make these worse, but these gaps are still real and they're persistent and they demand our attention. You also saw those gaps by Pell status and also women outperforming men by a few percentage points. Again, trends that didn't change in spring 20, but are still present nonetheless. Next slide, please, Carol. As you dig further, and we now have isolated the 5 courses which represent roughly 20% of all spring activity across TBR colleges, and you can see those general education courses on the left, Comp 1, Comp 2, Stats, Psychology, and Speech. And we tracked those individual course success rates. And again, not a lot of difference we saw spring 20 compared to the 2 prior springs. We saw a little bit of movement. This could be within a normal range. And so it demands further attention from us about whether these declines were real or whether they were just simply noise in the data. But for the most part, again, spring 20 grades in these courses, success rates mirrored the last 2 years. Did not see a big decline, except perhaps with the exception of Comp 1. Next slide, please, Carol. However, as we look at isolating just the learning support courses, again, the remediation courses, we did see indications that perhaps there was lower success rates in this spring compared to the last 2 springs, particularly in the reading, which, as you talk to faculty and others, is particularly tough to teach in an online environment. Those success rates did decline somewhat. There could be some other reasons for this, and so I don't want this to be dispositive, but it is the case where we're going to look into this further and see what lessons we might draw from the spring that could potentially help us as faculty prepare to teach a larger wave of learning support courses this fall. Next slide, please, Carol. So to wrap this up, again, some highlights. Again, spring grade distribution, fairly consistent with prior years, though there was that spike in incompletes, but again, on a small base. Overall, though, we saw course success rates mirroring prior years. Students were just as successful earning A, B's, and C's as they have been. We did, though, see some early indications that perhaps within the learning support courses and other courses, we saw some deterioration in success rates that bear further research. And again, we see persistent gaps in different subpopulations, particularly by race, by gender, and by Pell status. And one note, the bottom part there, members of the board, it's not on the slide, but we did isolate 2 success rates across dual enrollment students, and their success rates stayed constant across prior years. There was concern that perhaps with the closure of both K-12 schools and our own physical campuses that those numbers would deteriorate. We did not see that in the data at all. Next slide, please, Carol. And finally, a look at both summer enrollment and early indications of fall enrollment. We're tracking both of these metrics on a weekly basis, members of the board, and as of last Friday, and we'll get a new data dump today, but summer enrollment is holding steady. You see headcount down slightly, but FTE at community colleges up slightly, and TCAT numbers are up a little bit as well. So summer enrollment is holding steady, and that's a good indication so far of students and their proclivity to still engage in their education. Early look at fall, though, presents some red flags. We, at this juncture, applications are the best metric we have, and those are running about 20% lower than this same time last year. That could be for a lot of reasons. We think that, I guess we hope and think both, that it is simply a deferral of a decision that students and families, as they were dealing with the last 3 months, have simply just delayed decisions they otherwise would have made already in the fall. And that as the weeks roll by, those numbers will pick up again. You heard yesterday about the various marketing efforts going on underway, both within TBR, our colleges, the state's work as well, to try to get those numbers up. Those we think will probably begin to show fruit here the next few weeks. Also, there are a plethora of organizations, THEC, our philanthropic partners, AIRS and Tennessee Achieves, all of our colleges who are every day doing everything they can to reach out and engage students and encourage them to apply and to get back into higher ed this fall. It should be noted, too, that some metrics about the fall are currently healthy. FAFSA completion rates, and perhaps Director Krause can speak to this, are still very high. Promise applications are very high. So many students have begun the process, but now we just have to get them completed through that process and enrolled this fall. We will, of course, keep tracking this weekly and keep you updated as the semester rolls by.
Dr.
Carol,
Deaton, do you mind
yes,
if I
sir.
make a quick point on that?
Please,
and
yes.
I want to make sure the board understands that FAFSA completion rate and the outreach work, there's, in my mind, that credit really actually needs to go back to you all and to the colleges. Your college, TBR, community college, and TCAT admissions reps, which, we get to see their work just because we're running the financial aid side, they have been dogged and reaching students in ways that, and the presidents that are on the call I know can attest to this, everybody had to adapt how they do recruiting and enrollment management this fall. And I would say that the statistics that Dr. Deaton just showed, that is a credit to your colleges and the TBR office staff who have been leading that. And I'll tell you, there are a lot of states that would love to have their FAFSA data in that place. Increasingly, that's become a function in our minds of the work the campuses are doing to actively recruit, and the work central office is doing, Dr. Deaton and his staff, to track it. So that's just, I know sometimes this data kind of, especially to a lay board, you're getting hit with a wall of sound, but this data point in particular is something that we should be very thankful and proud of Chancellor Tidings and the campuses for their work. It's a big deal.
Thank you, Mike. And Carol, if you don't mind advance, I think that is the end of the slide deck. Yes, so Vice Chair Reynolds, members of the board, happy to engage in conversation and questions if there are any.
Emily, you're muted now.
I was doing so well. To the board, anything else for Dr. Deaton? And to Regent Krause, thank you for that perspective. I did want to ask you, based on what you've heard in these last few minutes and the seat you're sitting in at THEC, anything else you'd like to share with the board at this point?
Well, I would just say, and I threw into a chat comment that I'll give more perspective on, I appreciated Regent Goldsmith's candor with highlighting what are some really real issues. And I thought that it was I learned a lot by listening to you, Regent, so thank you for sharing. I want to reiterate, I spend a lot of time talking to folks that do this job in other states, and I think you're going to be hard-pressed to find a system that adapted more quickly, more kinetically than the Board of Regents. And if you look at Chancellor Tidings' weekly updates, that's borne out, right? This is a daily tactical operation. The biggest lesson learned we have at the statewide level, and I hope in some ways this will end up applying to TBR. A year ago, if an adult student's schedule changed at work and they came to one of the colleges or universities and said, hey, my work schedule changed and I don't think I can come to class, I think we would have told that adult student, you're out of luck and you need to drop. I think that's the reality. I really hope we as a public higher education enterprise, every campus in the state, university, community college, and TCAT learn that maybe there's another option. We can offer a student whose parents are sick or an adult student whose work schedule changes, instead of just saying you're going to need to drop out of higher ed, maybe we've learned there's this parallel universe, and there are a whole lot of mechanics there, and I understand that, but I hope it's something we explore as maybe one of the good things that come out of COVID. But in the main, just grateful to Chancellor Tidings and her team It's been incredible to watch the adaptation. We're really trying to generate a sense of excitement for the fall for students. And TBR has been central in the It's Time to Go campaign, because we don't want to see this notion of a gap year really taking hold. But I know that covered a lot, Madam Vice Chair, but just wanted to mainly give a lot of credit and a lot of kudos. And hopefully we can learn from some things not in a pandemic that can be used when life returns to some sense of normalcy.
No, as always, wise counsel. And thanks, too, for sharing that more national perspective, from where you sit, because that's obviously, we labor in the fields here, right? But we don't always have that broader perspective. So that's very helpful. And to your point about Regent Goldsmith's comments, I think it's important. And this is one reason why that student input and faculty input on our board is so pivotal. So thank you again, and thanks for being on this morning. I think I've got maybe 2 folks in the queue. Regent Prescott, did you have a comment or a question as well?
Well, I did, Madam Vice Chair. I really just want to congratulate Dr. Deaton for the work that they do. I mean, as we talk on our committee, we're constantly talking about the fact that when you are doing that kind of research, the real important question is now what are we going to do with it? And I think when we get comments from our own regents that even go further than our survey data, I know that that's how our system understands and decides how to support our schools. And I just think they do a great job of that. And I think we need to be proud of the fact that we're always looking with our research to gain information on how we can improve.
Excellent, thank you. Regent Hatch, did you have a comment?
Actually, I didn't. That was just operator error.
Okay, very good. Anyone else that I may have missed here?
Emily, can I ask a question? The last time we talked, the Chancellor mentioned that dual enrollment numbers were down. Are we still tracking those? And part of the reason I ask, I know, is in Hamilton County here, they still haven't decided or announced what they're doing for the fall semester. So it's really creating problems. I hadn't thought of this until I talked to my dean the other day. A lot of parents may be waiting to register for the fall to find out what's happening with their local school system. Mm-hmm. So, and we're still waiting, here in Hamilton County. So maybe that's part of the reason why dual enrollment, maybe that's a part of our issue, is that no one knows what's going on, at least in this county.
Well, Dr. Goldsmith, we suspect that is the exact reason why our dual enrollment's down. Many of the school systems, the people that our colleges normally negotiated with for dual enrollment, have not gone back to work. They've not been able to sit down and have those conversations with them. So students have not registered for those courses at this point. We hope that once the K-12 system is back up and running and have their plans in place, then we will actually see more students enroll for dual enrollment. Many of our dual enrollment courses are an online format to begin with. So we're hoping that we will see now that students that had not worked in that format before at the K-12 level may be more comfortable coming into a college level class in that format. So we still have a lot of work to do there as we engage with the K-12 system and hope those numbers will go back up. I'd just like to also talk about the online task force that I mentioned earlier with Dr. Hamilton and Dr. Purrier. A lot of the things that were mentioned, that's the exact reason for that task force, to find out where the gaps are, where we need to be putting more attention, and how we can be doing things better. I think many of you heard me make the comment that at some of our colleges, work that was supposed to have been in place that we thought was in place, because several years ago we asked that every faculty member have a D2L shell built. Yeah. We didn't realize that not everybody had exactly done that because we hadn't gone back and checked for any reason. We just sort of put that in as a best practice, and then we realized that that hadn't happened. And so we heard several presidents say that 5 years worth of work happened in 2 weeks. So now everyone knows how to build those shells, and they will become more comfortable with that work as we progress on. So a work in progress for sure, and one that we know that our faculty and staff are up to the challenge to do. So thank you. And Madam Chair, that does conclude my report for this part of the meeting.
Well, that was an excellent report. Thanks to you and Dr. Deaton. Very well done. Thank you for all you guys are doing. It is pretty amazing. We do not have any unfinished business to come before the board at this time. And let me just add, whomever's puppy is barking, thank you for the affirmation of all of the good work that is going on in the TBR system. Is that Jackson, Chancellor?
Sorry, that is Andrew Jackson. He's letting himself be known that he's here today.
Ex officio member today. Oh, that's great.
Emily,
Yes, sir.
can I ask the Chancellor a question that I'm just curious to see with the other things that are going on in the world right now? We just hired at Chat State our diversity, equity, and inclusion officer. I know Cleveland State did that recently. Do we have any idea of what's going on at the colleges around the state in our system in terms of, are they moving towards formally having a DEI officer? Is that just an individual decision by a college president, or, and obviously how does that fit in with everything that's going on right now?
Yeah, I would say that the majority of our colleges have someone that fills that role, whether that is their exact title or not. Every college has somebody that is doing that. Wendy Thompson oversees that for us at the system level office and has done great work in working with the individual colleges to make sure that we are doing better in that space. And Dr. Thompson and the work that she does with the summit that she has every year, the work that we're doing with Achieving the Dream, which again is looking at access and diversity and how can we make sure that we are more inclusive with students and what are our goals there. All of that plays together. And so each college is, like I said, handling that position a little bit differently. But that work is just foundational to what we're trying to do with helping students to be successful throughout the college system. And Wendy, if you're on the line and would like to comment just a little bit more to answer that question.
Sure. Thank you, Chancellor. All of our campuses have someone in place who handles the compliance issues related to affirmative action, equal opportunity, et cetera. It is a more recent trend that campuses are bringing someone on board who goes beyond compliance and works on true equity issues. We have about 4 or 5 campuses, community college campuses, that have those people in place now. We're bringing in resources. For instance, the Chancellor mentioned the meeting with Derek Young, and that was an opportunity for presidents to talk about what's going on their campuses, especially in light of the recent sort of incidences of awareness of social and racial injustice. And we're working with the presidents to make sure that they have the resources that they need. And the system office has sponsored the conversation with Derek Young, and we were able to understand what some of the presidents are facing on the campuses, and the fact that they really need the system office to assist them in some ways in finding additional resources. So it is a more recent phenomenon that we have people on the campuses who are dedicated to the equity and social justice aspects of the work. And as the Chancellor mentioned, Derek Young is also going to have a session with the board to talk through some of these issues, and we'll do additional sessions for the presidents and hopefully for the system office as well.
And I understand that several of the campuses have actually talked with Derek about doing sessions on their campus with both their faculty and their leadership teams. So I know that there's more of that yet to come.
Okay, good.
Great question. Great work being done. And for those of you who don't know Derek, and Regent Hatch knows him far better than I do, but he is a great talent, a good community leader, and someone I'm proud who is on our team helping us with this going forward. Anything to add there, Regent Hatch?
Well, you're right. He's a terrific spokesperson. He taught me a lot. And oh, by the way, he has a book coming out tomorrow. So get on Facebook or LinkedIn and check that out. It's a terrific book about getting into business and you know, how you can go from getting right out of college to where you want to go in life. So, yeah, but he's great.
Excellent. Thank you. As I said a moment ago, I don't think we have any unfinished business, so we will proceed to the new business portion of our meeting. And our Finance and Business Operations Committee has been hard at work. I will call on Regent Duckett for his report, which has an action item as well.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. After multiple meetings over the last several months, the committee report for you takes into account the financial condition of our institutions and the overall state of the economy, and includes recommendations on the maintenance fees, tuition, mandatory fees, and non-mandatory fees. Before I summarize the committee's report, I'd like to ask Chancellor Tidings for any comments that she would like to make.
Thank you, Regent Duckett. Again, I would just like to commend the committee for your hard work on this. I know that sometimes when we put the report up and we talk about this part of it at the meeting, people don't always realize the number of times that this committee has met, the great work that Vice Chancellor Gibbs and his team do to ensure that the budget is not just something that is rotely approved. It is well thought out. It is looked over. Every dollar is assessed and made sure that we are trying to spend our money in the most appropriate way for our students and the citizens of Tennessee. So thank you to this committee greatly for all the hard work that you've done put in on this.
Thank you as well. Minutes from the February 7th, March 10th, and April 29th special call meetings were approved. With regard to maintenance fees, out-of-state tuition, mandatory fees, and non-mandatory fees, the committee recommendation for community colleges and TCATs is there are to be no increases for academic year 2020-2021. All rates will remain at the current academic year 2019-2020 levels. In its report, the committee also recommends approval of the operating budgets for colleges, TCATs, and the system office totaling $1.22 billion for fiscal year 2019 and 2020, and $1.18 billion for fiscal year 2020-2021. The recommended budgets are based on the level of state funds recommended in the governor's budget and passed by the General Assembly, as well as early estimates of factors such as enrollment growth and availability of federal funds. The full effect of any enrollment changes and state appropriations will be included in the October revised budget. In addition, the committee considered the proposed LGI budgets under the board's policy on consideration of university budgets. You will recall this policy was developed to guide the board's consideration of university budgets under the Focus Act. Within its report, the committee recommends approval of the LGI budgets as required by this policy. The capital budget requests for 2021-2022 fiscal year were provided to the committee and approved. In light of the legislature's adjournment this morning, I would like to ask Vice Chancellor Gibbs to cover one positive change to our budget. Vice Chancellor Gibbs.
Thank you, Chairman Duckett. Yes, in my report yesterday, I had indicated that the $21.7 million TCAT Chattanooga Advanced Manufacturing Building, at that time it was included in the House amended budget proposal, but it was not included in the Senate amended budget proposal. but I'm pleased to report those differences were reconciled in our favor last night, and the project was included in the final state budget that was approved last night. So with that, I want to offer my congratulations to TCAT Chattanooga, and we look forward to working with them to get this project started.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor. As committee chair, I move that the board approves the report of the June 18th, 2020 meetings of the Committee on Finance and Business Operations, which includes maintenance fee, out-of-state tuition, mandatory fee, and non-mandatory fee recommendations for 2020-2021, the operating budgets for fiscal year 2019-2020, and 2020 and 2021, and the capital budget request for fiscal year 2021-2022 as presented.
Thank you, Regent Duckett. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second, it's Tom.
Thank you, Tom White, for that second. Again, I think this has been incredibly important work. And I just want to underscore, no tuition or student fee increase. We are still making and keeping higher education affordable here in Tennessee. And as the Chancellor referenced, this is a time when Tennesseans really need that support. So of great significance to our state. So thank you for the good work. Is there any discussion before we take a vote to affirm the work of the Finance and Business Operations Committee? If not, Sanja, if you're standing by, would you call the roll for us, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regent Apple?
Aye.
Regent Burdine?
Aye.
Regent Dollar?
Aye.
Regent Duckett?
Aye.
Regent Gill?
Aye.
Regent Green?
Aye.
Regent Hatch?
Aye.
Regent Pepper?
Aye.
Regent Prescott? Regent Prescott? I see your face, but
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. Vice Chair Reynolds?
Aye.
Regent Shockey?
Aye.
Regent Garland?
Aye.
Regent Wamp?
With two separate.
Aye.
And Regent White?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Very good. And we've got another furry friend on the phone with us. Oh, that's great. That's great. I may have to go get Fluff from outside and bring him in. So good work, everyone. This is that is an important motion, important approval. And thank you, Vice Chancellor Gibbs, for the excellent update for the TCAT Chattanooga this morning. That is extremely good news as well. I believe now I will turn to Regent Green for her report from the work of the Personnel and Compensation Committee meeting yesterday.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Personnel and Compensation Committee met in regular session on Thursday, June 19th to review and recommend approval of the following items: tenure and promotion recommendations for community colleges, tenure and promotion recommendations for Tennessee College of Applied Technology, faculty promotional increases, new and/or amended compensation plans for 3 colleges: Jackson State, Motlow, and Southwest Tennessee Community College, system-wide compensation strategies, President Emeritus contracts for 7 individuals, and an appointment of the President of TCAT Murfreesboro. Madam Chair, this concludes my report of the June 19th, 2020 meeting of the Committee of Personnel and Compensation as presented.
And are you offering that as a motion for us to approve?
Yes.
Thank you very much. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Seconds, Tom.
Thank you, Tom White. I can always count on you for a second. Thank you, sir. Do we have any further discussion after that excellent meeting yesterday? If not, we will once again call on our board secretary to call the roll for us, please.
Thank you. Regent Apple?
Aye.
Regent Verdine.
Aye.
Regent Dollar.
Aye.
Regent Duckett.
Aye.
Regent Gill.
Aye.
Regent Green.
Aye.
Regent Hatch.
Aye.
Regent Pepper.
Aye.
Regent Prescott. Regent Prescott.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Chair Reynolds.
Aye.
Regent Shockey.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Aye.
Regent Womp.
Can you hear me?
Aye.
And Regent White.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. Chancellor, we are coming back to you with a building naming request. And Dr. Torrance, if you're standing by, we'll be to you in just a very few minutes as well. Chancellor?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is my pleasure to bring this request before you today to name the Rutherford County Teaching Addition 3 building at Motlow State Community College Smyrna campus the Hyatt Spivey Center. The college formed a building naming committee to consider nominations for the naming of the Teaching Addition 3 building. The committee voted unanimously in favor of the proposed name. This naming will recognize generous donors and is hyphenated to honor the Hyatt family as well as the late Mayor of Smyrna, Mr. Bob Spivey. The Hyatt family are true champions of higher education and avid supporters of the Motlow State Community College, both financially and personally, by supporting various programs and functions of Motlow. They have been supportive of academic programs such as nursing, STEM, and other workforce initiatives. They have supported various scholarships such as the Transitional Scholarship, which serves as a bridge for students that have lost their Title IV funding source. The Motlow Ladies Philanthropic Society Scholarship, which assists non-traditional female students in financial need. The Hyatt family's passion for science also influenced their creation of a STEM endowment that partners with elementary schools. The Hyatts have contributed to capital match campaigns for the Mary Lou Apple building, and they made a generous donation of $800,000 to the third building. This recommendation will also honor the late Mayor Bob Spivey's role in helping establish the college in Smyrna through a very generous land donation from the town of Smyrna. Mayor Bob Spivey was a pioneer in working with state officials and former Motlow State Presidents Dr. Frank Glass and Dr. Arthur L. Walker to pave the way for a permanent Motlow facility in Smyrna. Not only did Mayor Spivey generously give of his time and energy to ensure a Motlow presence in Rutherford County, he persuaded the town of Smyrna to donate 14 acres for the beginning of the Motlow campus location. Additionally, Mayor Spivey assisted Motlow with getting the community behind the new location and with fundraising for the building. Spivey's belief in higher education access for Rutherford County citizens has been clearly demonstrated by the growth of the campus and the number of students served since 2006. The 17,500 square foot building was at capacity since its beginning with 1,000 students. With the continued growth, a second building was needed, and former Motlow State President Dr. Mary Lou Apple, along with the support of Mayor Spivey, requested additional land to expand. Motlow State Community Colleges wishes to recognize the Hyatt family and Mayor Spivey for their commitment to student success in higher education and the communities the college serves. I am honored to recommend to you that the Rutherford County Teaching Addition 3 building be named the Hyatt Spivey Center.
I did it again. Here we go. Very good. As I said to myself a moment ago, I have a feeling that Regent Apple might want to say a word and even offer this as a motion for approval.
I really would like to make this as a motion. These two families that you're discussing here are amazing people that for a very long time have been working on behalf of their communities. And notice too that the Hyatts live in the Tullahoma, but yet had such a concern for all of our counties. And I think that they're to be commended for that vision, that they love Tennessee. And so I wholeheartedly recommend and make this as a motion.
Thank you very much. No, thank you for those good words. So do we have a second?
Second.
Second, is that Regent Duckett?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Regent Prescott, too. Any further discussion? If not, Sanja, one more time. This is a motion to approve the Hyatt Spivey naming at Motlow State, Smyrna campus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regent Apple?
Aye.
Regent Burdine? Regent Burdine? Regent Dollar?
Aye.
Regent Duckett?
Aye.
Regent Gill?
Aye.
Regent Green?
Aye.
Regent Hatch?
Aye.
Regent Pepper?
Aye.
Regent Prescott?
Aye.
Vice Chair Reynolds?
Aye.
Regent Shockey?
Aye.
Regent Varlin?
Aye.
Regent Womp?
Aye.
And Regent White.
Aye.
Did Regent Burdine come back on? Motion carries, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. So, President Torrance, I believe you are on to offer further comments about these tremendous leaders and visionary folks who we are proud to have a part of our system.
Yes, ma'am. Vice Chair Reynolds, members of the board, Chancellor Tidings, colleagues, and the Motlow family, thank you for your support. Bob Spivey served as mayor of Smyrna and is remembered as a leader and as a visionary. He is remembered as a community catalyst and a driver of the town of Smyrna's early and continued growth. His professional footprint included commercial, residential development, mini warehousing, multifamily housing, and other entrepreneurial ventures. Mayor Spivey was largely responsible for raising seed money for Motlow State Community College's Smyrna campus and also served on the Motlow College Foundation. The Hyatt family continued to be generous, supportive, and connected to our needs of our students and the community. The Hyatt family fiscal contributions pale in comparison to the shared compassion and interest in providing accessible STEM education as far as the family's reach will allow. The Hyatt family's humility and broad experiences are only two of the wonderful dispositions they embody, which emboldens our community and our region. The largest of the contributions the Hyatt family continues to share exemplifies their selfless family mission to contribute to the betterment of people and communities by leveraging educational attainment. The erection of Smyrna Building 3 and in today's review, consideration, and approval of this building naming request, so being called the Hyatt Spivey Center, aligns with the vision, calling, and commitment of the Hyatt family and Mayor Bob Spivey. Motlow State Community College is honored, thankful, and will make good on the unyielding support the college has been providing. Thank you to the Board of Regents, Chancellor Tidings, and the Motlow family. We're truly thankful that the Hyatt family and Mayor Bob Spivey have given us this gift. Chancellor Tidings and Vice Chair Reynolds, this concludes my comments.
Thank you, President Torrance, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to take the action to honor these folks, tremendous Tennesseans. We are proud to know them. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So this is always a bittersweet time when we offer resolutions of appreciation, and we have two to take up today. The first for our faculty regent, Robert Pepper, and the second for Emily Dollar, our student regent. Both of you have done such a tremendous job. We will act on these together. So I will first call on Regent Prescott to offer the resolution for Robert Pepper.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm trying to kind of balance things, but it is my pleasure to offer the resolution of appreciation for the service of Mr. Robert Pepper as faculty regent for the Tennessee Board of Regents. Whereas the Tennessee Board of Regents in regular session held on June 19, 2020, wishes to express its sincere appreciation to Mr. Robert Pepper, a machine tool technology instructor at the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, Whiteville, for his service as faculty regent. And whereas he was appointed to this position by Governor Bill Haslam for the 2018-2019 academic year to serve as the non-voting faculty regent, and was appointed by Governor Bill Lee for the 2019-2020 academic year to serve as the voting faculty regent. And whereas Mr. Pepper earned his Bachelor of Science degree at Belmont University in 2001 and then enlisted in the U.S. Army, where he served with distinction from 2002 to 2006, including deployment to Afghanistan in 2004 to 2005. His many commendations and service awards include the National Defense Service Medal, the Army Commendation Medal, 2 Army Achievement Medals, the Army Good Conduct Medal, and the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal. And whereas following his military service, Pepper enrolled in the Machine Tool Technology and Tool and Die Technology at the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, Jackson, where he graduated in 2008 as machinist. After service at 4 private machining companies, he followed in his father's footsteps to become an instructor at TCAT Jackson, where he manages and studies all aspects of the machine tool trade, develops lessons and course content that meets the needs of students and industry, and assists students with finding work before and after graduation. Whereas believing in the mission of the technical colleges, he recruits and demonstrates his commitment to the community to relocate new manufacturing facilities to West Tennessee for the betterment of TCAT. And whereas he has fulfilled his responsibilities in an exemplary manner by contributing to the governance of the institutions within the purview of the board, and by voicing the concerns and views of faculty for educational quality, and whereas he has provided leadership, guidance, and expertise to the board in the areas of articulation and student life, and has represented his colleagues and students at the TBR system with unwavering and distinguished service, and whereas he actively devoted his time and attention to deliberations within the Committee on Academic Policies and Programs and the Committee on Economic and Community Development, where he brought invaluable insight from the campus level. And whereas believing that one of the most important responsibilities of the Regents is to hire devoted and compassionate leaders for our institutions, during his tenure, he faithfully dedicated time and energy to serve on the 2019-2020 Jackson State Community College presidential search. And whereas he is an individual of high integrity and wisdom and with a sincere interest in the welfare of the Tennessee Board of Regents system and Tennessee higher education in general. And whereas his tenure has been marked by selfless support of the college system, its students, faculty, and communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tennessee Board of Regents system expresses its sincere appreciation to Mr. Robert Pepper for his dedication and contributions to the board and its institutions, and extends best wishes to him in all his future pursuits.
Well done. I bet that's the first time you've
Chair,
yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I bet that's the first time you've read a resolution in a car.
I think it is. But I do want to say, I know we've got another one, and I don't want to take much time, but I do want to say it's just been a real honor and privilege to serve with Mr. Pepper. I will say that there have been numerous occasions during his time that he's often a person of few words, but when he speaks, we need to listen, because I can remember several instances where his comments really enlightened me as a member of the Board of Regents, And I know we've all benefited from his being with us.
Nicely said. He's our E.F. Hutton. Remember those commercials? When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. No, thank you for that. I'll come back to you for a motion. And Regent Varlin, I'm coming to you now for another nice resolution for Emily Dollar, our beloved student regent.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair. And I really am honored to do this because Emily and I have had a great opportunity to get to know each other. So, whereas the Tennessee Board of Regents in regular session wishes to express its sincere appreciation to Miss Emily Dollar for her dedicated and valuable service as student regent. And whereas Miss Dollar is a diligent student at Walters State Community College, where she is a member of the International Club, Baptist Collegiate Ministry, and Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society, and earned the PTK Golden Opportunity Scholar Award. As a student in the rigorous physical therapy program, she is consistently on the president's list, has completed the coursework for her Associate of Science degree, and is also on track for earning an Associate of Applied Science degree. As a strong indicator of her belief in the value of education, she earned considerable college credit as a dual enrollment student at Walters State while earning her high school diploma with high honors and a perfect grade point average at Jefferson County High School. And whereas she is an exemplary student leader, having served as the Senator's Page at Walters State, a role in which she excelled at work in the admissions office, leading tours and providing information for prospective students, parents, alumni, and other guests, helping fellow students in the transition to college and assisting with campus events. Even while maintaining that rigorous service and study schedule, she's also worked at an off-campus restaurant, does volunteer work at a rehabilitation center, and through her church performed other community services locally and on mission trips abroad. And whereas Ms. Dollar was appointed student regent by the Honorable Bill Lee, Governor of the State of Tennessee, for the 2019-2020 academic year, and as such, she has been an instrument of positive and effective change, and for her state and people, and its people. And whereas as student regent, she actively participated in the system-wide student government President's Council meetings in order to better serve as a liaison between that body of student leaders and the board, and so that she could most fully represent the voices of the constituents she was appointed to represent. And whereas she has used her experiences and unique perspective to devote considerable time and effort as a member of the Committee on Academic Policies and Programs and Student Life, and whereas her contributions to higher education are commendable and have included providing insight on important issues concerning legislation impacting students and student life on TBR campuses. And whereas during her tenure with the board, Ms. Dollar unfailingly fulfilled her responsibilities through active and eager participation in board deliberations and contributed greatly to the governance of the system. And whereas she is an individual of high integrity and wisdom with a truly sincere interest in the welfare of the Tennessee Board of Regents system and Tennessee higher education. Whereas her tenure has been marked by selfless support of the system, its colleges, and its students. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tennessee Board of Regents expresses its sincere appreciation to Miss Emily Dollar for her dedication and many contributions to the Tennessee Board of Regents system.
Thank you very much. Yes.
You're welcome. With that, I want to, if it's appropriate at this time,
please,
to say to Emily, I wish I could hug you. We're going to really miss you. We've had so many great opportunities in the airport and flying over to Nashville to be together. You are a very, very special young woman, and I can't wait to see what you do with your life, because you are going to do great things on every level, Emily, because you're such a level-headed, kind, and gentle young woman, as well as a leader and a go-getter. So I'm just so proud to have had the opportunity to serve with you and wish you personally the very best.
Well, nicely said. I'm going to return to you in just a second. I'm turning to Regent Prescott. Do we have a motion to approve these two lovely resolutions?
So moved, Mary Lou.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Regent Apple.
Madam Vice Chair, it's my honor. Okay.
We got it. Thanks, Regent Prescott.
Are you going to handle that?
I got it. We've got you and Regent Apple, and a second from Regent Varlin, if possible.
Yes, second.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further discussion or comments about these two outstanding individuals?
Emily?
Yes.
Let me say something, because I had some really great conversations and learning experiences with both Robert and Emily. Robert taught me that I should not think that every TCAT is structured the same or operates the same. And that's a bias that I easily could have had because I've worked with our local TCAT at my campus. And that was immediately something that he let me know and reinforced on multiple occasions. And Emily, the same thing is, as a faculty member, it's very easy to think you know what students are doing and very easy to understand or think you understand them. And Emily let me know that the student perspective also is different on every campus. And it's important to hear that perspective, that students have a voice in letting you know as a faculty member that you may not know what's best for them. You might know what's good for them in the classroom, but they're bigger. They have whole lives outside of the classroom that you have to also be aware of if you're thinking about success. So I've really enjoyed the time. Unfortunately, we didn't have as much face-to-face time as I would have liked this year. But again, I was said before, it would be nice if we could have said goodbye face-to-face, but this will have to do. Thank you, Robert and Emily.
Thank you for those excellent comments. Anyone else? Well, if not, I think Dr. Goldsmith and our two regents have spoken on behalf of the board in expressing our great admiration for these two individuals. If there is no further discussion, let's make this official with a roll call vote. Sanja?
Thank you. Regent Apple?
Aye.
Regent Burdine?
Aye.
Regent Dollar?
Aye.
Then Regent Duckett?
Aye.
Regent Gill?
Aye.
Regent Green?
Aye.
Regent Hatch?
Aye.
Regent Pepper?
Aye.
Regent Prescott? Regent Prescott? Vice Chair Reynolds?
Aye.
Regent Shockey?
Aye.
Regent Varlin?
Aye.
Regent Womp?
Aye.
And Regent White?
Aye, and thank you to both for your contributions.
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you all. Emily Dollar, you're one of the hardest working people I know. And as Regent Varlin said, we look forward to your next steps, and we hope you'll stay in touch with us. Do you have any comments you'd like to share with the board?
Hi.
There she is.
Yeah, turn the camera on. No, I want to thank you for the time you've given me to be on the board and to learn as a student how I can help my fellow students on campus. I've had a great experience with this. Thank you, Dr. Varlin, Dr. Goldsmith, for your kind words, and I do appreciate it. And I will say this will carry on and change my perspective as I finish out my schooling, and I just deeply appreciate it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. We deeply appreciate you. And Regent Pepper, I love the word that was in that resolution, wisdom. You brought so much wisdom to us, for which we will be forever grateful. The good news is we're not losing you as part of our TBR family. We know where to find you. And I also want to say we are deeply grateful to you for your service to our country. And now, of course, we have the benefit of learning from that in our TBR system, as do our students at Whiteville. So thank you. We would love to have your comments at this time.
Thank you. I think it was Mark Twain. I'm not one for quoting, but I think it was Mark Twain that said it's better to keep your mouth shut and be thought a fool than to open it and remove all doubt. I hope that my not talking a lot in the board meetings has never been misconstrued as disinterest or anything of that nature. I could ramble on forever. I try to keep it to just the most important comments I feel like I have. But with that in mind, I'll try to keep this brief. It's amazing to me that 2 years have already passed.
Yeah.
I am so thankful to have had this opportunity to serve on the Board of Regents. I hope that I've made some kind of small contribution to the future success of the system. The same as I'm sure that this experience will have a great influence on the rest of my career. I'm jealous of all of you who have the good fortune of being able to continue doing such truly meaningful work as this. Even with the unenviable task of navigating through the COVID-19 pandemic and all that entails, you're a remarkable group of people, and I am proud to have had the opportunity to meet and work with each and every one of you. I regret that our last meeting is not in person. I would like nothing more than to shake hands with every one of you and thank you in person for the kindness and the camaraderie that you've shown me over the last 2 years. Much like my time in college and my service in the military, my time in the Board of Regents will remain an important landmark in my life that has helped shape who I am. Thank you all.
Oh, thank you. Those were beautiful words. And you need to know that you have helped shape the future of this system. And if you are thankful to us, believe me, we return your gratitude many times over. Thank you so much. So we appreciate both of you, and we'll stay in touch. At this time, and it is hard to believe that June is upon us again, I would like to turn the gavel, so to speak, over to Regent Duckett for our next business item. Regent Duckett, hit that mute button, sir. Thank you.
I am so sorry.
That's okay.
We've all been doing this.
I'll hit rewind now and start over. The next item on the agenda is the election of our vice chair. And for that, I would like to turn to Regent Barlin.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Mr. Chair, it is my sincere pleasure to nominate Regent Emily Reynolds to serve as Vice Chair for the 2020-2021 term. She has provided great leadership and dedication to the Tennessee Board of Regents, and we have benefited greatly from her experience and appreciate very much her willingness to serve the people of Tennessee.
Mr. Chair, I concur with Regent Varlin's comments and second that motion.
Thank you, Regent Watt. Are there any other nominations?
Can I third that?
You third.
You probably have 18 of those.
All righty. As such, a roll call vote would be in order. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regent Apple?
Aye.
Regent Burdine?
Aye.
Regent Dollar?
Aye.
Regent Duckett?
Aye.
Regent Gill?
Aye.
Regent Green?
Aye.
Regent Hatch?
Aye.
Regent Pepper?
Aye.
Regent Prescott? Is Regent Prescott dropped off? Regent Shockey?
Aye.
Regent Varlin?
Aye.
Regent Womp?
Aye.
Regent White?
A very enthusiastic aye.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Chair, motion carries. You're muted, or Regent Duckett, we can't hear you.
Regent Duckett? Regent Duckett, we're still having trouble hearing you. Regent Duckett, can you hear us? We can't hear you.
It's the dreaded double mute.
Let's see.
Okay, I'm afraid we have lost
Yeah,
Regent Duckett, but we did have a motion, we did have approval, so we do have a board chair for which we can all shout and say how grateful we are that you have agreed to take this job on again. Me, probably more than anyone. So I cannot thank you from the bottom of my heart that you have agreed to take us on one more time. So everybody cheer loudly, unmute and just scream how happy we are.
Thank you all. Thank you, Regent Duckett and Regents of Arlen and Wamp for your kind comments. This is always a humbling experience, and after hearing Regent Peppers and Regent Dollar's very wise comments, I have to confess I feel a little teary this morning. It is my honor to serve with all of you. You are amazing leaders. You care deeply about what we do, student success and workforce development, and I'm just honored to call you friends and colleagues. So here we go on another year. At June of 2021, we'll be here before we know it. But in the meantime, we have a lot of work to do, and I thank you all very much. Chancellor, I have a handful of announcements, but I will call on you first for any closing comments and announcements.
And I do have just a few announcements to make. And yesterday, I think I bid Christine Modisher farewell and thanked her for her great service because I thought she was on the road today. She is not leaving town until tomorrow. So I understand that, Chris, you are on the line. So once again, I just want to thank you so much for the job that you've done helping us during this time of transition. Mr. Brian Lapps, whom you all know, was selected by the committee and voted on by you to begin his duties. He actually already started, and in true attorney fashion, he drew up a volunteer agreement for the month of June and has been working with Chris and the team on the transition already. So, Chris, if you would like to please, if I could call on you just to make another comment or two. Well, okay. I think she's not able to get on at this time. I also want to let you know that we are going to need to schedule a special call board meeting sometime in August. We have not selected a date yet. The reason for that will be to address Title IX regulations. We have been in the process of trying to update our policies and procedures to address the changes that have come about with regard to Title IX. There has been a lot, again, of changes since the regulations passed. There have been some lawsuits brought forward that may impact the changes again as well. So we've not been able to completely get those in line. I will share with you that Brian Lapps was hired at Vanderbilt to be the Title IX regulator to do those policies and procedures there. So he is knee deep in that work. As soon as he comes to us, he's going to make sure that our policies and procedures are at the level that they need to. So just a heads up that we will need to call a special meeting before our regular scheduled board meeting in September. And Madam Chair, I do not know if this was on your agenda or mine to say, but we do plan to have the September meeting virtually as well. The system office has not returned back, as you can tell, to our offices. Every time we think that we're going to do that, Nashville does not able to move to level 3 for that to happen. We still are not at level 3 in Nashville, so we are going to be cautious. And our return date right now is scheduled for August 3rd, that we will be back at the central office. But of course, as all of you know, call us or text us and we are here for you. Everyone is working diligently from their other areas. Madam Chair, that is all I have today. Thank you.
No, thank you, and keep those good updates coming. Sanja has talked to, just so you guys know, both Columbia State and Pellissippi about the possibility of making those campus visits next year with any luck. So stand by for more, obviously, for the following year. And hopefully we'll get back in our campus groove eventually. Chancellor, would you mention one more thing that I'd love to send around to everybody, and that's that incredibly creative YouTube video that Cleveland State and Roane State did for the SOAR Award?
Absolutely. and you will know what she's talking about and why we grin when we say that. Cleveland State and Rome State partnered together to do a handoff of the trophy, as you might say, from Cleveland to Rome. It is a very special video, and it made my week when I saw it. So we will get that out to you so that everybody can look at it and watch the good work that they did. It's truly a dedication to how much that trophy meant, and to the good work that our foundation team did putting the SOAR event in place. So I thank them, and thank Rome State again for their great work in being selected as College of the Year.
No, it's very cute. It's one of those things you're going to watch again and again. It just lifts your spirits.
Thank you. We will get that out to everyone.
Thank you. It's just fun. Let me just say, and we talked about this before everybody was assembled this morning, but breaking news this morning, Dr. Alicia White at Austin Peay State University is leaving Tennessee to return to Texas, where she will take the helm at Sam Houston State University. She has been a change maker over 6 years at Austin Peay. I am proud to have served on the search committee that selected her ultimately, and obviously our chancellor at the time, John Morgan, recommended her to the board. She will be missed in Tennessee. She is a UT graduate, as in University of Tennessee, but she did come to us from Texas, and so she and Elliot, her husband, who has been such a community leader in the Clarksville area, I know they will be missed. So farewell to Dr. White. She has done a tremendous job here, and we'll look forward to hearing next steps at Austin Peay. We don't have our blue sheets that would typically be at your place today with regard to feedback on this meeting, but I think Sandra will be in touch with us in some way, shape, or form to receive your feedback, particularly with regard to our use of technology today. There was an article in the Association of Governing Boards quarterly magazine that I found really helpful, and it was great affirmation to how we were doing this, trying to keep things within about a 2.5 hour limit, getting your essential business done, but still allowing for conversation and having a technology team that could support us in this regard. And I think we've checked all of those boxes very well. So again, thank you for being willing to take this on in a different fashion. I know we all miss physically being together, that piece of our humanity and having time together. And finally, I just want to say, Dr. Deaton, thank you for reminding us that today is Juneteenth, a day of historical significance in this nation. And I know we will all pause to think of this day in various and different ways, but it is a very important day for America. So thank you for mentioning that. And once again, I'm grateful to you all for your support, your time, your talent. We are an excellent board. We clearly have challenges before us, but we have great leadership in Chancellor Tiding and the team. And with that, if there is no further business to come before this board, I know we'll all be in touch, but we'll look forward to reconvening in August for our special called meeting, and once again in September. Everyone, please stay safe. Good to be with you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To everyone.